Self-care and strategy for entrepreneurs through the coronavirus event. I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling, your host, the business psychologist here at Tap the Potential. And today I am so excited to be joined by our guest, John Bates. And John is here with us to talk to us about leadership in a virtual age, because one of the things that has happened in the last 2.5 weeks is all of us have been thrown into virtual leadership, which presents its own set of challenges. So I'm going to introduce John formally in just a minute and let you know all the good things about him. But before I go there, I want to kind of just set things up and talk as the business psychologist about what we are going through as business leaders and entrepreneurs during this time, and why our self-care is so important. So we have been, in the last 10 days, 2 weeks, we've been through a lot of heightened arousal response because we're in crisis mode. And physiologically, we can't maintain that for a long period of time. And so what is happening now is we're all starting to kind of feel tired, burnt out. I don't know about the rest of you, but I found myself coming into Monday with my fingers crossed and my prayers going up that this week would just be a little normal, that every day would not be a new situation that we're dealing with, or some curveball being thrown into the mix. So that's my sense in talking with other entrepreneurs, especially on Friday. We had a alumni call with our Breakthroughs on the Bayou retreat alumni, John, many of them that you know, and you were there. And one of the questions that I asked them is, how, we're coming, it's Friday. And before I could even say anything else, I heard this, this collective sigh, like, thank goodness it's Friday. And it just made me aware of kind of how tired we're all feeling right now. And so I asked them to talk about what they were going to do for fun over the weekend, and really hold a focus on having fun as a way of this, the self-care that we need to be doing for ourselves. So that's where I want to pick up today on this Facebook Live. In the chat, I would love for people to be posting, what did you do for fun and relaxation over the weekend? I personally spent a lot of time with my girls. They swam in the pool. They did some Legos. We had family meals for almost every meal of the weekend, which is highly unusual. We played games each night after dinner, which is also something that might happen once a week if we're lucky, but we're making time to make that happen every night. So I personally am being a lot more intentional in my self-care and having fun. And I would love in the chat if you all would be posting what you're doing for fun. The other thing that I want to encourage you to do as we're kicking off this Facebook Live is to start a watch party. We need to reach as many entrepreneurs in the world as we can and support them with self-care during this time. If there is one group that is really at risk and struggling with all the changes that are happening in the business world due to coronavirus, it is entrepreneurs and small business owners. They need tons of love and support from us right now. And that's what this series that we're doing every Monday on the Tap the Potential page is about. It's about self-care and strategy for entrepreneurs through the coronavirus event. And if you start a watch party, I will do a drawing at the end of this Facebook Live, and one person will be a winner of John's book, one of his books, which is Your Amazing Itty Bitty Guide to Being TED Worthy, which is highly valuable during the age of coronavirus and virtual leadership. And it's a real thin book, fast read. It has great tips, all based in neurobiology, right, John?
That is correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to introduce John to you all, so you know who we've got here. John's why is to unleash what is great in all of us so that it can live in the world. And that John lives that why, and I know he lives that why because I have personally witnessed, I think at least 5 times now, John, being in a room with you as you are training leaders on their leadership presence. And I have watched the transformation that happens in a room in the course of, I'm going to say, like 3 hours. You have people who are standing up and they're kind of, just holding it all together to stand up in front of the room, and they have a pretty good presentation and a way of captivating. And as they go through what you teach, I see the real inner beauty of each person coming through in their communication. And I watch the people in the room really connecting powerfully with their stories. And so one of the reasons I wanted John here with us today is because when we are going virtual, our communication, we have many more challenges in front of us as to how we are going to connect emotionally with the people that we are trying to lead. So we have a computer monitor. If we're lucky, we have video. And if we're not lucky, we just have audio that we have to deal with. So how do we connect? How do we hold attention and really lead during this time? So that is my experience of John. I think he's going to really have a lot to share with us. I also want to share his formal bio with you so you really understand his background. John has spoken, hosted, and coached for over 35 different worldwide TED and TEDx events. He's been privileged to get to know some of the top leaders in the world, the NASA astronauts, leaders at Johnson & Johnson, J-Labs, Accenture, Boston Scientific, Coca-Cola, and many others, including many of our clients in the Tap the Potential family. And he works with people on a very deep personal level. The amount of vulnerability, openness, self-reflection, and honesty that a well-done TED format talk requires is second to none. The insights into leadership, success, fulfillment, and life that John has gained from his years of experience with this allow him to share some of the biggest, most powerful secrets of truly successful leadership that exists. So, John, with that, I want to get you talking a little bit about your why and why you feel so compelled to be talking to entrepreneurs about self-care right now.
Well, I almost died of an autoimmune disease about 18 years ago. After being an entrepreneur, super driven, thought winning the game of who slept less last night was a good game to win. By the way, just let me say flat out, that's a stupid game to play. And if you're winning it, you're losing. It is not good. So that experience, I had a company. We raised over $80 million. We were called bigwords.com. We sold textbooks over the internet cheaper than the bookstore. We pioneered the whole thing, e-commerce thing. I mean, we definitely had some firsts in things. We were the first tell a friend program on the planet that we know of. And then we went out of business in the dot-com crash. And after that, I almost died of an autoimmune disease, a weird version of Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is, essentially my body attacking itself. And so for a long time, I was not okay. Thankfully, I did not die. They really didn't know if I was going to make it, and I was scared to death. No pun intended, or whatever that would be. But coming out of that on the other side, because of the nature of this, it seemed to be triggered by lack of sleep and stress. So welcome to life, welcome to the two things that got me by, more important than food. And to get out of that hole that I was in, I had to really learn how to take care of myself. And at first it felt like I was giving up half of my life to sleep 8 hours a day. I'm like, how do people get stuff done? But almost 18 years later, I feel like I'm a lot more productive. I'm far healthier. I'm doing much, much better than I was. I wouldn't say I've licked this completely, but I'm way better than I was. And it's all about self-care. And, in these times, right this moment when we're talking, and all the time, but right now we realize it, you got to put on your own oxygen mask first. You know, when those things pop down, if you don't put your own oxygen mask on and just immediately start helping others, you're going to pass out before you get very far. And this kind of a crisis, the coronavirus thing, makes that super obvious. It also makes it much tougher.
Yeah.
It's hard anyway, you know, and that's something that we all know, but we don't do necessarily. At least I didn't. And now it's very tempting to not do that even more. But if you do that even more and you get sick, you just become part of the problem.
Right.
So anyway, that was maybe a long answer.
No, it's an excellent answer, and it touches on something that I've been just out there preaching this left and right, that we have to do our self-care as entrepreneurs first before we can show up and take care of our families, before we can show up and lead our team. And my sense is, from all the research that I'm doing with entrepreneurs on entrepreneurial burnout, is there's a good number of us, probably the majority of us coming. Yeah, sure. There's a good number of us coming into this coronavirus crisis in a place of stress and burnout, so that means our immune systems are lowered. That concerns me a lot, because if we have that going on and we are not practicing good self-care, we're going to be the first to fall, and we can't, because we have so many people that count on us. Our teams need us. We've got to keep our businesses and our payrolls going. We have support for that now, thank goodness, with things that are getting passed nationally. So that has taken some of the worry off of a lot of entrepreneurs' shoulders. At least that's what I'm hearing in our community. So one of the things that I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so yet, now is the time to do it. And that is to take our entrepreneurial burnout assessment at tapthepotential.com/assessment. And I'm popping the link there in the chat. You will get feedback that shows you currently right now how much at risk you are for entrepreneurial burnout. And essentially, if you have more than 3 symptoms, you are at heightened risk. And it means today, stop everything and do something to take care of yourself. This is not something you can do over the weekend. Like, this is Monday. You can't wait till next weekend and do something to take care of yourself. And so I want to just run through a list real fast of some self-care strategies. And then, John, I want to hear from you what you're seeing and hearing out there in the entrepreneurial community around the self-care and strategies for that. So first off, sleep. You heard John talk about the importance of sleep. Sleep is the #1 thing that we can do to support our immune system and lower our level of entrepreneurial burnout and stress. 8 hours of sleep. There is nowhere written that entrepreneurs are going to be effective on 7 hours of sleep a night or 6 hours a night. All the research, it says loud and clear, 8 hours of sleep consistently. So if you're someone who is sleeping 6 hours a night, it's time to start steadily increasing that and looking at, if you need to move your bedtime earlier so you have more time for that, or if you need to spend longer in bed. If you're somebody, I can't do it, but I hear that some people can. If they decide they're going to sleep later, they sleep later. I'm the one who has to just move my bedtime back earlier and earlier to get my 8 hours in. So look at that. Look at your sleep habits and look at, are you creating an environment that is conducive to sleep? So turn off screens 2 hours before bed. Stay off of news and social media after 5 p.m. is what I would recommend. Only check major news sources and social media midday, once a day, so that you know what's going on in the world, but you have some time to process it and talk to people before bed. Don't check it first thing in the morning, because that gets your mindset in a very negative, funky place for sure. The other thing that I want to say about self-care is getting exercise. Get outside, keep your social distance, obviously, but walk or go for a run or do something and just get some fresh air and get your body moving. I know it's fun to binge watch Netflix, and we can only do that for so long before we get antsy and we need to get out and get fresh air. Other good things to do right now for your mindset and your mental health are meditation. So the Calm app is one that I've been recommending to really support around that. John, yeah, thumbs up. Journaling, writing down your thoughts, because that allows you to start having space between the train of thoughts that run through your head. John has taught me a lot about monkey mind and strapping our monkey mind in the back seat so that we can bring our best thinking forward. Journaling is a way of getting that monkey mind into the back seat and letting your best thinking come forth. So John, I just want to turn this to you now. What are you seeing out there in the entrepreneurs that you're talking about? And what are some strategies that you have been using or have heard of other entrepreneurs using successfully right now around self-care?
So first of all, I'll start with me because I'm one of those entrepreneurs, and I'm sorry, man, all these things are just blowing up and I should have put them all on quiet, but I didn't. Now they are. So sleep is something, two things really quickly. Self-care for a lot of big burly men especially sounds like getting a pedicure. Okay, let's get over that, please. Self-care, I've been starting to substitute love quotient, LQ, because there's IQ, EQ, and LQ. And I think they're all three super important. And people with a higher LQ are going to take better care of themselves. And because they do, they're going to be more effective leaders ongoing. So let's not make that, let's not make that mistake of thinking self-care is somehow frou-frou or overly pampering. No, it's called staying in the fight, if you're in the military. And excuse me, and I think that's really important. Sleep is really important because without enough sleep, people make bad decisions. If people don't get enough sleep, it's equivalent to driving drunk. And that's one of the things that all the most successful people say about sleep. And there are very notable exceptions like Elon Musk, but I'll tell you, watch him on social media. And sometimes I think he would have done a better job if he got a little more sleep.
Exactly. I think Elon Musk could be a tremendous leader. He's great as he is, but if he's sleeping and delegating, what could he be capable of? What would
imagine, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got to hang out with Sir Richard Branson on his island a year ago, right about now. And that guy is brilliant, and his whole thing is to delegate and super well, get the best people and let them do it. And he's so good at that. And that's why he's Sir Richard Branson, Right. So I imagine
you follow that example.
Yeah. And then, LQ height, increase your LQ, your love quotient. That means taking care of yourself. And get enough sleep so you make better decisions. You are at the helm. These people are depending on you to make good decisions, and sleep is going to facilitate that. So
let me underscore something right now, because we have our Lead with Love campaign going on at Tap the Potential, which means lead with love. And that starts with us, our self-care. We have to take care of ourselves before we have that love to get out there and share with the world. So we want to be a gift from our gifts, and we want to shine bright, but we've got to lead with love, starting with our self-care. So thank you for making that point, John. Very good.
Absolutely. And try this on, people. Try this on. It changed my life. You cannot be a safe space for other people. You can't be a loving leader for other people if you're not that for yourself. Just can't happen. Physically impossible. Right. So physics, won't allow you to do that. So that's yet another good reason to be good to you, is for the other people.
Yeah. One other thing I just want to say, if we have people popping in here because watch parties have started, we encourage you to start a watch party and share this so that more entrepreneurs can have access to the self-care strategies that we're talking about, because entrepreneurs are a very vulnerable group right now, and we're really trying to get in their support. When you start a watch party, post in our chat so I know that you've started a watch party. You will be eligible for the drawing that I'm going to do after the Facebook Live today for John's book, Your Amazing Itty Bitty Guide to Being TED Worthy. Okay, so sorry about that, John. Keep going, please.
Yeah, okay. So the other thing that you said that I'd like to just echo, that I've been sharing with everyone I support and for myself as well, The other day I woke up at 3:55 in the morning and I just could not get back to sleep. So for a while, I tried box breathing, 4 breaths, 4 counts in, hold for 4 counts, 4 counts out, hold for 4 counts, 4 counts in. Yogis do it, Navy SEALs do it, people in between do it. It's a great way to calm your body down, but I just couldn't get back to sleep. So finally,
box breathing.
Box breathing.
Okay, I'm putting that in the chat there so people can look that up and get the directions for that. That's really good.
4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4. So in a really high stress situation, Navy SEALs get trained to breathe that way. It just brings down the physiological reaction so they can get mental clarity again and things like that. And it's also a yogic thing, so it works all over. And but it didn't work for me. So I got up and I came downstairs and just got to work, went to bed earlier that night. But what the whole thing made me realize is that I have to exercise. I'm stuck at home. We can go outside. Luckily, we have a yard and things like that. So that's awesome. But I hadn't been taking advantage of that. And so that day I sat down and I scheduled in all of my workouts for the next several weeks. And the good news is Sharon, my wife, saw those things popping into the calendar and she hurried and scheduled hers. So we're both doing that.
Right.
And what I realize is if I don't tire my body out, my mind is going to keep me awake.
Yes.
If I tire my body out, I can still get a good night's sleep,
Yeah. And I want to offer something too around the 4 a.m. wake up, because that's my issue. So I have been doing exercise and it's still not impacting the 3 or 4 a.m. waking. But what I have come to appreciate is on the Calm app, there is a meditation called Gently Back to Sleep, and it's 45 minutes.
Yes, that's great.
And so I will admit, sometimes I've used it and I have not fallen back asleep. And that's frustrating. However, what I've come to appreciate is the consistency that every time I wake up at 3 or 4 a.m., I am now going to that and turning it on, because it's getting associated in my head that I'm going back to sleep, because it works about 75% of the time for me. So consistency to build a habit and an association between this stimulus is related to me going back to sleep will strengthen that muscle. So it really is like working out on sleep. So I would encourage all of you, as you're listening, if you try box breathing or you try, a Gently Back to Sleep app on the Calm app, to just remember, it may not work the first time. Keep trying. Don't just abandon it and give up and say, oh, that didn't work for me. And like John is doing, he's reflecting on, okay, what is it that I need to do so that I have a better night's sleep? All of us can do that.
Yeah. And I just want to give there are very few things in the world that I can as wholeheartedly endorse as the Calm app. There is, and if you do not meditate yet, and it sounds woo-woo, or it sounds threatening, or it sounds scary, go get the Calm app and do the 7 days of calm. Mm-hmm. They're super easy meditations, and there are a lot of myths and a lot of misconceptions about meditation that keep people away from it or make them think that they're not being successful with it. She will break all those down. I think her name's Tamara Levitt. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Just hands down, some of the best money that I spend in my life is the Calm app, and I highly recommend it.
Yes.
And if you feel like that's too touchy-feely, there are 2 others. One is called Headspace. That's pretty good. The other one that is very intellectually rigorous and very satisfying in that way is an app by a guy named Sam Harris called the Waking Up app.
Oh, okay.
And so I Sam Harris Waking Up is if you want a more intellectual and yet still very satisfying approach to meditation, that's the one I'd recommend. But Calm, that's just absolutely. Okay. And getting back to sleep, doing the daily Calm meditation is fabulous. Just couldn't recommend that more highly. Absolutely fabulous.
Excellent. What else are you seeing out there as you're talking to entrepreneurs?
I've got some notes here from some of the people that I've been talking to, and I wanted to share some of these things, some of which are a little bit humorous. So I support executives in China, and they're, ahead of us on the curve, for better and for worse. But one of the things that one of the executives said is that, the first 2 weeks, which is kind of where I think we all just were, some people are a little ahead of that, some people a little behind that. The first 2 weeks was just about getting stuff handled. Like, are her employees okay? What's happening? Is her family okay? Getting this settled, getting that, figuring out what's going on. So there were 2 weeks of just total chaos, right? Then by week 3, things started to get into a rhythm. There was kind of a new normal. 3-4 weeks, that it sort of settled down, and she got back into some sort of a rhythm. By week 7, everyone's going freaking bonkers, totally berserk, stir crazy. And one of the things that I've been, and I think this relates really well to self-care, one of the things that I've been saying to the people I support is, okay, I know that as a leader, you want to show courage and you want to show that, you're tough and right. However, everybody has no idea what's going on in our lifetimes unless you were around and paying attention in 1918. This is unprecedented, and it's global, and nobody knows what's going on. The data is horrible because it's been moving so fast. So if you don't share that you have some uncertainty and that you're having some difficulty with this, then everybody else is going to shove that stuff down too.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy. That's not good.
So unhealthy.
Yeah. And it's terrible for your business if they don't feel like they can be honest with you. Yeah. So it goes back to one of the things that I always say in my trainings that you've heard a million times, Sabrina. People don't connect with your successes. They connect with your messes. Your message is in your mess. And very importantly, what did you learn from that mess? Or what are you doing about that? Don't make this a whining, complaining session. But if you can surface some of your fears and what you like, hey, I woke up at 3:55 because I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
I realized I need to work out. So I put it in my calendar. I'm working out. What are you doing? What are some of your concerns? And what are you doing about them? So it doesn't turn into a complaining session, but it does turn into a way for people to surface their concerns and then either say what they're doing to work with that, or potentially ask other people, does anybody have any advice for me, any thoughts about what I could do about this? Yes.
And I will tell you, I've had several of those conversations where I've said, here's something that's kind of in the back of my head that I'm starting to worry about, and I don't want to carry this fear with me. And the people that I've shared it with have given me a different perspective. Right. Or here's, if it came to that, here's an idea for how you can handle it. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. And it's just that
awesome.
Of having a, 2-step simple plan of, if I had to deal with it, here's what I would do.
Yeah.
So I think surfacing that, and along those same lines, my child's teacher sent an email that made me aware that there's another level beyond worry and fear that we need to be talking about, and that is grief and loss.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and what kind of caught my attention, I went, oh my gosh, she's right, is the email was about our kids are grieving. They miss their friends. They are missing out on school events that would be happening during this time. Yep. And a lot of us, like, I'm canceling this week. I've canceled a trip to Holland, which was a bucket list. Like, I've been working on this for years to get there and do it during this time. I've canceled it. So there's all of us have stuff like that. Graduations, weddings are being canceled, big life events. There's grief. And
my 3.5-year-old is suffering from that, I'm sure,
And so in my mind, I'm thinking my kids are out of school. They're thinking like, woohoo, this is great. And it also made me realize they're thinking that, and it stinks because they're grieving the time with their friends. So I think we need to be opening conversations in our family about grief and what we're sad about letting go of and what's hurting us, and with our kids and on our teams, so that space to talk about what are the losses. There are lost jobs out there. There are people who are scared of losing their homes.
Yep.
Let's just get those conversations going and
Yep.
support each other.
Yes. I mean, and it's really important. I just think authentic, vulnerable, connected leadership is always going to work better.
Yes.
And right now, I think that there's just never, given that this is unprecedented, there's never been a time when it's been more important. And of course, keep it positive, bring people back to what are we doing, keep people focused on the larger mission and the empowering context, create some empowering context for them around what's going on. I mean, one of the things that's really interesting is in China, they have learned a lot about teleworking, working remotely, distributed work. People have, I think, made a lot more room for family and life because, when your kid runs past because you don't have a home office and, somebody hears the baby crying, people have just had to make space for that. And yeah. I think that people don't want to give a lot of that stuff up. So I think there is an opportunity here to look for new ways of working and new ways to be productive and new ways to engage family and life and make room for all of that. And people are not going to give that up. And another big thing that I heard that I thought was really, really important, and I think everybody knows this in the back of their mind, but I'm going to say it out loud because I think it's so powerful. One of the execs I support said, John, I watched a lot of companies in China just shut down, and they did the right thing. I mean, they closed down, they took care of the employees, whatever, but they just went dark. And we tried very hard to do everything and anything we could do to support the doctors on the front line and support our partners and support our clients and reach out to them and ask them if they needed anything. And he said, now that we're starting to come out of this again, the returns on that were not anything he expected. But he said it's staggering to him how much that meant to the people that they reached out to and did things for. Mm-hmm. They've got an enormous just base of workers there for this company. He said within 72 hours, they had an app pushed out to everybody's phone that asked 5 questions. What's your name? What's your email? Where are you? Are you okay? Are you suffering from any symptoms?
Yeah, that feeling of caring. They care.
Exactly. Gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to just go throw this phone in the garbage.
Okay, that's okay. While John is stepping away a minute, I want to turn back to something that he pointed to, is that we are experiencing a new normal in our society about what it means for work to support life. Because through coronavirus, we have had to shut down business as usual. Many of us are functioning, like Tap the Potential is still open and going. We're virtual, so we're able to do that. And many people are having more quality time with their families, taking lunch with the kids during the work week, spending time at home together, doing things, and work is supporting life. And that really is what we're about at Tap the Potential, is work supports life, not the other way around. There you go. John's got his sticker there. He was with us at Breakthroughs on the Bayou a few weeks ago when we had lots of conversations about this. And I think this is a real, as we look at, we're grieving things, we're letting things go, there's a real opportunity here for us to look at what do we have to be grateful for? What are all the good things coming out of this, including that opportunity to lead with love, reach out and check in with people. Where are you? What do you need? How can I support you? Having those conversations will put us strategically in our businesses far ahead of the curve as we start to pull out of this, because we are going to have a much better handle on what our clients, what our vendors, what our entire communities around our businesses are going through. And we're going to be in a place where we can support others, and our businesses will start to come back and grow from that.
So, Dr. Sabrina, I'm going to model something that I'm trying to get across. I could make myself really wrong for the phone. I do apologize. It's not normally down here. Life is a little topsy-turvy, so I'm just going to let it go. I'll be okay. The phone rang. I got up. I threw it upstairs again, and here we go.
Here we go. So let's talk about leadership in this virtual age, and what are some things that, as we are doing more conference calls, Zoom calls, that we can be mindful of? Because I know, John, you and I have worked together. You have a course that you are about to run to support leaders right now with how to show up powerfully and be powerfully present. And I've been on different webinars with you. I've heard you share some really fantastic pointers that are practical, actionable pieces of advice. So I would love it if you would share some of that with us now.
I would love to do that. And so one of the first things that I have been saying a lot, and I think it's really important to think about this. I think it'll seem obvious in hindsight. Your leadership presence now, your executive presence now, is all about your telepresence. It's all about how you show up on these calls, these kinds of things. So there's a few things that I would run through for that with you here, Dr. Sabrina, that I think are super valuable. The first one is to just even get that. And one of the most important things for me is never underestimate how lucky you are to have the ability to do video. Because in China, the executives I was supporting, it was phones and that was it, which is fine, but video is much better. And since we have video, never underestimate how important it is for your team, your teammates, the people you lead, the people you work with, to see you on video. If you're having a bad hair day, who cares? Come on video anyway. It's much more important, the connection that you can provide. And especially if you're the leader and it's your meeting, then you absolutely must be there and do everything you can to get everyone to come on to video, and tell them it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad hair day. We just want to be together, because it's so much more connecting to be able to see each other.
So psychologically and with the neurobiology involved, the more senses we can engage, the better. So when we bring video on, now we have sight and then we have sound. We can't smell, obviously, because we're virtual. So we have that sense is out of there. Taste is out of there. Touch is out of there, unfortunately, during all of this. So socially distance, we can touch ourselves, right? Yeah. And give ourselves hugs and hug our families. Yeah. But touch is very, very important for a stress relief response. So I want to emphasize that. But when it comes to being a powerful leader and being present, the video and getting people to connect on video is important, very important.
Very, very important. Now, so the three little things, well, maybe not so little, but one thing is your background. If you're the leader, think about that more than a lot of the leaders that I see thinking about it. I've watched a lot of these hastily thrown together Zoom meetings or whatever for people, for people doing for their clients or whatever for their team. And the person running it has not thought about their background or their lighting. Those are things that are relatively super easy to think about. Yeah. I finally just went out and bought a background because my background was so not good. So I just got one, and that's a printed thing hanging there. And then I've got some lighting. I recommend that you don't have a bright window behind you, so your face is all dark. That's, they call that the witness protection program. Can't do that as a leader. Think about, do you have some nice kind of maybe slightly to the side? If it's above you, it kind of throws the wrong shadows on your face. If you can get some light coming in through a window, Dr. Sabrina, you look fabulous. You've had this down for a long time.
Thank you. And I just shout out to Randy Hickman at Penrod, who has consulted me. He's been over here. We've adjusted lighting and played with things. Yeah, he sends me a message after every video, and he says, that was good, or you're a little too yellow. Here's what you can do. So we've put a lot. Thank you, Randy.
You do a good job. Yes. And then, now, here's another thing. Let's see. I don't know if I can pull this off. I'm just going to have to tell you this because I don't know if I can pull this off, and I don't want to necessarily take the risk of dumping out of the stream. But right now, how you're seeing me is through my Logitech. I think it's a C922 Webstream Pro or something like that. not that expensive. It was like $100, and the video is notably better than my almost brand new iMac built-in camera, which kind of surprised me. Like it's much better video. However, the real secret is this microphone that I'm using. It's called the Blue Microphone Yeti. And Blue is one of my very favorite microphone companies. And they also make a thing called a Snowball. The Yeti's maybe $150. The Snowball, I think, is $50. And the Snowball doesn't have as many bells and whistles, but I don't need them. You could easily use a Snowball, or Shure makes good microphones, AKG, Rode. But sound is actually far more important than video. So don't get a brand new video camera. And if you're going to get one thing to up your executive presence online, get a really good microphone and then have it be pretty close to your mouth. I had this over there for a long time till a friend of mine was like, dude, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, duh. So I pull it over here so that I can have that really good, crisp sound. And thinking about your background, thinking about your video. Now, the other thing I see all the time is people will be looking at me like this, whatever, because they're on a laptop. Okay, that's not great executive presence. If you're on a laptop, and see if you can bring it down so that it's much, the best is basic.